There are 11 different places to drop on Rebirth Island, each with their own disadvantages and advantages. I landed in each spot and put them on a tier list, starting off with Chemical, Dock, and Harbor. Let's go. And for the first one we're going to be talking about is Chemical Engine, as I just said. So Chemical Engine is not one of my favorite drops, and you're going to see that I marked this scavenger, and the only reason why I'm marking this scavenger, I'm not going to be picking up too many contracts here in this video for the sole purpose of I'm trying to kind of highlight the drop spot in general, but scavengers and the spy drone contracts are really good for money when it comes to Rebirth Island. If you watch my streams and watch me play ranked, you will understand that even more, especially for ranked players. But this is just kind of for the public match Rebirth Island. Chemical Engine is a good drop. It's going to have a lot of money. And for the tier list, there's going to be safe. There's going to be mid, which just basically means average, nothing wrong with them. And then there is going to be cracked, which honestly might not even be better than some of the safe drops depending on what kind of player you are. So here we are on Chemical Engine. I like to kind of land on the top of the roof now and kind of work my way down. This building is very big. It has a very good third-party potential of obviously shooting other people from these windows. And with a big building and a lot of loot crates and a lot of money, there's a very good potential to find out your loadout weapons just like I did right here. But even though I just found those, I'm still going to try and find the money that I need to obviously get my loadout. And just a disclaimer, I'm doing this in solos, but if you're landing with your squad, what I'm doing right now, you kind of want to make sure you're running together and stacking. I know a content creator saying that you should be stacking is kind of crazy, but at the end of the day, Call of Duty is meant to be played how you want to play it. And if you're not the best player or the best team and you're just trying to have some fun, stack with your boys, run together and play your trades. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can see here on Chemical Engine, there's a bunch of loot crates, a bunch of good options for money. The best part is too, if you look up here to the mini map, there's a guaranteed buy here, and also the tunnel through here to the industry buy is not a bad play if it does get mixy. So overall for this one, I'm going to put it on the safe side. Good amount of money. Definitely not the hottest drop. And even if it is hot sometimes, because sometimes, you know, you get a random Rebirth lobby where everyone wants to land Chemical, you definitely have a lot of ways to finesse and obviously kind of work down from the top floor all the way to the bottom and get your money and all that stuff. So after 2 kills in a solo and looting this building without doing a contract, I have $9,000, which is enough to get a loadout in a solo. And of course, if you have a squad kind of looting and doing a lot more, just more work towards the loot and getting money faster, you will be able to get a pretty quick loadout and then be able to kind of rotate from there to wherever you want to go. So one last kill there. Overall, we're putting Chemical Engine on the safe side. Let's move on to the next drop. And for the next one, we're going to be landing towards the dock. Now, for the tier list purpose of this video, I'm going to put this as mid or average. And the reason why I don't even consider this one safe is because this one is right next to a cracked drop, which is control. And we'll get there sorted towards the end of the video. And usually really good players like to land towards the cracked drops and third party this exact location. So I don't even consider this a very safe location to land. It also doesn't have the best money. But when it comes to contracts, like I was saying earlier, it is not a bad place to drop if there is a spy drone contract or a scavenger if you want to try and get quick money, because the contracts are going to kind of enable you to just get pretty fast money. The one thing that kind of saves you and the advantage of this drop is a lot of times there is a balloon right here where you can see I'm standing, and the balloon is a very good way to kind of rotate out either on top of control and third party them, or to kind of go onto the top prison and just get some map control. So there are some advantages for this one. Personally, I'm going to put this one on the mid side. I am not a huge fan of this one. There is not too much money on the boat most of the time, or at least from which I have found. Not my highest recommendation, but at the end of the day, I will always put this for you guys. It's all personal preference, and you're just going to see really quickly as I'm landing here, I do get enough money for a loadout if I really want to get my own loadout, and I also am going to be able to kind of go over towards these spy drones. But first, we're going to kind of go over here, get our loadout, and just want to show you really quickly before we move on to the next drop how easy these spy drones really are. So let me just skip forward really quickly, and all you have to do for these spy drones is shoot 9 of them. I want to say that's 9, so it's 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8, and 9. If you shoot the 9th one, it does drop a UAV. So make sure that when you're shooting this 9th one, it is close where you can pick up this advanced UAV, get a bunch of money, and then also be on your way. You can see now that I have $11,000. But overall, when you're playing good players, a lot of people that land prison and control like to third party the bottom dock. So I'm not a huge fan of this one. That's why I'm putting in mid. You could still easily land there and still get a pretty quick loadout, as you guys can see. But let me know what you guys think, and let's go to this next drop. And now for this next drop, I don't know if we want to put this one as cracked or mid, and it's going to be the living quarters drop. It's in between control and the headquarters. I like to land tents first, loot up the tents, get a weapon, and then you can kind of third party the main buildings over towards living quarters over on this side of the area. But either way, these tents usually have some decent loots, some quick and easy, like, you know, weapons or money and just stuff like that. If there is a contract there, of course, as I recommended, the scavengers and the Spy drones are really good, or even sometimes a bounty, hopefully that it gets poached so you can get some cash. I have $6,000 now for that. But there's a good chance that you get either a red crate or just a bunch of crates here, and sometimes even a weapon crate. And as you get these weapons, it is a good thing for you and your squad to kind of get these kills in the tents. And a lot of people like to fight over towards these buildings right here that I'm pointing at. So if you do have weapons and you don't have enough for a loadout, a good way to get a bunch of kills is kind of going towards that. So that's why I'm kind of on the scale of putting this on the crack side. But at the same time, it is definitely more on the mid side for me, because I don't prefer to land here unless, again, there is a contract in one of those buildings. You should still be able to get your loadout, but even when you do drop this loadout, if people in those buildings do have a weapon, it can kind of get crazy. So if you're a higher skilled player, this might not be a bad drop for you. It's kind of right in between the crack drop, because it's not your super hot drop like control and or prison, but at the same time, you're gonna have a lot of chances to third party people and potentially get some money. And other than that, there's not too much to say about this one. This is a pretty self-explanatory drop. Moving on to the next one. And for our next drop, it is going to be Stronghold. And now for the tier list, we are throwing this one on the safe side. Now, this is one of my favorite drops when it comes to ranked play and even in regular pubs, especially when there is a contract around. Right now, there is not too many contracts in this gameplay that you are watching. But when I like to land over here by the Stronghold, if I can and it is not heavily contested, sometimes it's weirdly heavily contested, and sometimes there's also a very good gun right there in the tower. I try to you know, land at the top of it, or then sometimes gonna get this pushed off to different buildings depending on where it's going. But a lot of the times I don't seem to be super heavily contested when I play solos here. And if you have a squad, you can kind of take tower control, you can take these buildings control, and just have a lot of opportunity to have a lot of map control while you are looting and looking for money. A lot of the times I will not land here if there is no contract though, because the one thing I don't love about this kind of drop is there's not a super high amount of money when there is nothing to kind of loot. There are good loot boxes and stuff, but for some reason I kind of strike out when I'm just looking for money on my own. But I do love this place because usually there is a balloon right there that you can use to rotate, and if people do try and push you, you do have a lot of cover. It's not like the docks where you only really have that boat in the water. And then here I get lucky enough to get my loadout weapon here, but a lot of the times that's not always going to happen. But there is a good chance with some of these crates that it does. And just overall, I think this is a pretty good drop, especially if you are more on the beginner side. I would put this as a safe drop. This is not a crack drop, but it is one of my favorite safe drops, especially again when there's a contract. So overall, we had that guy raging. I don't know what, yeah, you know, we had to do this really quick. You know, that had to happen. That guy was calling me mean words. You know, he deserved that. The advantages of this is just, again, there's a lot of cover and a lot of buildings, and just a lot of places to finesse. There's really good rotations out of that, and I kind of get a pretty quick and easy loadie. I'm going to be able to use this balloon to just rotate out here, and it's just really, really nice just to have all of these options after. So if you haven't dropped here, try it out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And if you are enjoying this content, make sure you guys are also dropping a like on this. It's a little bit different of a kind of a piece of content for me, but I wanted to try something out for you guys, especially for the ones that are somehow new to Rebirth. This has been around for a long time, but there are a lot of new COD players every year. And with that being said, I'm trying to always help you guys out. So hopefully this one helps you out. And now let's move on to another drop. And for this next one, it is going to be the bioweapons drop. Now, weirdly enough, Stronghold before the new Rebirth came out used to be one of my mid drops. I didn't really like it that much. And now it's turned into one of my favorites. Bioweapons used to be one of my favorite drops back in the day with the older Rebirth and the older game in Warzone 1. And I love this place. It used to be a crack drop with a lot of money. And I don't know what it is with this version of Rebirth, even though it is the same map. Maybe it's just the players have evolved. I just don't really love this drop that much. I consider it mid now. Like, it used to be a cracked one for me. I would put it in between cracked and mid. Sometimes this place is heavily contested, but just overall, I just feel like the buys here, you kind of have to go rotate over to the industry buy if you want to use one of the buys there. And I think this buy down here is one of the worst buys ever for how low ground it is. So if you don't fully clear out bio, basically that buy is not even useful just because you can get pinned down there. So overall, I'm going to put this one on the mid side of things, where I would have put Stronghold on the mid side of things now, but I put that on the safe one. So a weird change up for me. I can't believe I'm saying this because this was one of my homes back in the day in Warzone 1. But you can see here, I'm kind of just like looting through. This building can get really weird with vertical audio. So one of the disadvantages for me is that there's a lot of vertical audio with this building that I can never like kind of decipher. And just walking up these stairs and just guessing wrong can be really, really devastating to obviously your plan of gameplay. So this guy doesn't know what he's really doing. That's a really cool assassination, by the way. This bundle is one of my favorite bundles they've ever added, but that's completely besides the point. I definitely think a disadvantage of this drop spot is how bad this buy station is low ground. So technically, I always try and use the industry one if I can. But the problem is now that I haven't cleared the industry area, you don't know if this building's fully clear. So overall, bioweapons, mid, Let me know what you guys think, and let's get to another drop. And it is only fitting that we just ran from bioweapons to the industry, and we've already done chemical engine. So let's just show you what an industry drop looks like when I like to land over towards the industry. So you're going to see here as the plane's kind of coming in, I'm looking at like the contracts of what I want to do. And of course, we're not picking up contracts for the reason of just showing you the drops more than just contract dependent stuff. And when I land industry building, I try to land on either the side to the left or the side to the right, because there is going to be a second floor platform that you can use. I prefer this side for the reason that I got really lucky and that's not consistent, but we're gonna act like that is. So yeah, always land on the left side. But either way, I like landing on this side because, again, that tunnel that connects the chemical engine to the industry is a really good tunnel to kind of get out if this is too heavily contested for someone that is not obviously very cracked out or very skilled and you're trying to look for a safe drop. The industry one, I wouldn't consider this one safe. This one has a little bit more action and not the most money, but it's definitely not safe for the fact that the people that land bio can third party you, the people that can land chemical can third party you, and also the people that can land prison can third party you. So I think this one's like a third party central. I think this is a very mid drop. I don't even consider this one safe or cracked. You do have an opportunity to get some kills if you are a very, very skilled player, but overall it's going to take a lot where you can kind of just see what I'm doing here. I hear someone above me right now, so I'm trying to get them to peek me. But overall, you're not going to find too much money. And if it is cracked and there are going to be people around just like kind of running around, it's a very open area. So if you don't get the best weapons, I personally don't really like fighting in this building too. So this could just be a personal thing for me where I don't enjoy the fights in this building. And even I think by the time I usually clear out this building and get the money, and you can see even with these kills, I don't end up finding a lot of cash. And by the time I do, there's going to be a lot of people from bio or chemical that can probably third party me. So overall, this one's a mid one. We're throwing this in the mid. I'm not a huge fan of it, but you can see how the rest of this plays out. Just going to kind of go through it now. I think the rest of this for the most part is clear. I don't hear any footsteps, but you can see right there too. Look at the mini map. Look how many people are prison right now. If those guys want to be successful, get their weapons, or just rotate out, they're probably going to rotate towards me, and that's where it can get really, really dicey. And also when it comes to buy stations too, if you don't clear out bio weapons, people from bioweapons can really use they're kind of using your buy station too. So it's not like a good one to really secure. And then if you go up towards the prison, the people top prison are going to be looking down at you as well. So overall, low ground. Not a huge fan of it. And honestly, just thinking about it and watching this back one more time, I might think this might be one of my least favorite drops out of all of them. So if I had a tier list right now with more than 3 categories and this was my least favorite, I think I'm putting industry there. I just don't like this building very much. So I'm not sure if you guys agree with me on that. If you guys do, let me know. That's kind of how I would work the drop in general. Just kind of working through the building and clearing it out and taking some fights. And then after that, you're going to have to kind of get moving before you get third party. On to the next one. And for our next drop we're going to be talking about is Factory, which is near harbor, under prison, and very close to headquarters. And we're throwing this one in cracked. And the reason why is because there is a lot of money in the factory, and I wouldn't consider this one safe, but this is definitely not a mid drop. It's a very fun building to kind of finesse in. The staircases and stuff can get very mixy, and when you are with a squad, there could be a little bit higher of a risk here because there's going to be a lot of action for the most part, normally, at least for my experiences, but there is going to be a lot of cash, and I think a lot of people know that, especially on the railings. There's just random duffel bags of money sometimes, and as you're kind of doing this, you're just going to run into a lot of gunfights and people. Just overall, as you can see here, I've already ran into 2 gunfights right off the rip of this solo. And if you have a squad, man, there is a lot of cash to get here, a lot of action to have here, and just a lot of fun. So we're throwing this drop in cracked. Definitely not a mid drop. One of my more favorite drops right now when I'm playing pubs and I'm trying to get mixy, especially even end games that happen here. I just love the factory building and fighting at it. And just overall, you can kind of work from the top down. And as you can see, that's kind of just a reoccurring theme of all of my drops. If you can take the high ground of a building and it's not contested, or you're confident that you can contest and win that fight, usually working from the top down is always going to be your safest bet, because if you clear the top and then people are obviously fighting you, you can run up back to the top and obviously have safety and just, you know, cover to kind of go from there. And on top of that too, if you do kind of run up to the top and people do land on you that aren't third partying, there's a good chance that they only have a pistol and you're going to be able to get an easy kill too. So clearing rooftops and high ground is always really important. There's a lot of good resupplies here in the factory. You can get money. There's a bunch of buys. You can work the boat and factory. There's just a bunch of different things you can do. And usually there's good contracts and also just other buildings to work as well near the living quarters. And honestly, a lot of the times, by the time the living quarter fights kind of go down, you're just kind of chilling anyway, where you're not really too worried by the time you should have your loadout before the living quarters guys have their loadouts anyway. So overall, I'm a huge fan of factory. You can see I already have $10,000. I have 6 kills. This is a very hot drop, especially in squads. Very easy money just to get loadout. And then on top of that, the buy station here is great because when you put your loadout down right here, you have these windows to finesse. You can kind of get that loadout and then get right into the factory building to start finessing again. So overall, one of my more well-liked drops. Really enjoy this one. Throw it in the cracked for the tier list. Let me know what you guys think of factory, and let's get to another drop. And speaking of cracked drops, let's talk about the #1 cracked drop in my opinion for the tier list, and it is going to be prison. There's a bunch of different ways you can land prison. You can land on the left side, you can land on the right side. Either way, depending on which decision you want to do, you can either land on this left side over here and kind of have these buildings in this area to finesse, or you can land on the right side and have the staircases to finesse too. So the reason why I land on this left side is you can kind of work these staircases and just go crazy from there. And if you get these kills, you can kind of hop out and just try and do your best to obviously stay alive. Now, this is a place where I don't recommend landing if you're looking for crazy money unless you plan on killing the entire lobby. So higher skilled players, or you think you're a higher skilled player, come from a multiplayer, and you're cracked out of your mind, go for it. This is also a really good drop to land here if you're trying to work on your skill. A lot of the tips and tricks that I provide on these videos, a good way to obviously put these tips and tricks and these aiming tips and these movement tips to fruition and to obviously really kind of just get better and kind of practice is by landing prison. You can see here, there's just so much action going on right now. I've already shot at like 4 different people. I have 2 kills, and there's just a bunch of stuff going on. So a really good way to practice is by landing prison. A really good way to get better is by landing prison. And if you're going for a personal record, we're playing Resurgence, baby. You can die and still come back. So even if you want to kind of just test your luck and see if you can have a hot start by getting 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 kills off the rip, and then after kind of doing a regain with a scavenger, it's not a bad strategy. So overall, prison is not my favorite personally because I play a lot of ranked and I'm trying to stay alive and not lose SR in ranked and obviously get a quick loadout and do scavengers and do spy drones and all that. But at the end of the day, you're going to see a lot of action here, a lot of places to get cracked out with, and just a lot of different areas of this prison to run into a bunch of fights. And you can see here too, I end up dying just because there was 1, 2, and then a third party there too. There's just so many different people all over the prison. But again, a great way to practice, not the best way to get your loadout unless you're planning on just killing everything. And just, yeah, that's the drop for you. Throw it in cracked and let's move on to the next one. And for this next drop, it is going to be the harbor drop, which is in between chemical and factory. I consider this one more on the safe side. We're going to throw this one in safe. And the reason why is just there's not going to be as much action towards the harbor. You're going to be in between factory. Let all the factory guys just fight each other. Most of the time, you're going to run into a lot of just people like this, maybe one or two people. And if you're playing squads, like maybe 1 team max, especially if you're playing quads, where people are going to be landing on you. And there's some decent loot in some of these buildings. The thing with this is a safer drop where you can technically third-party factory and kind of get a little bit more risky if you want to get the money. But the thing is with this one is there's a safer drop here where you can definitely get a gun and then third-party. That's why I consider it on that side. But there's not a lot of money in the harbor, and some of the buildings are not going to have too many crates or cash. And then with that being said too, you move on to the buy station. There's just this buy station here, and it's only kind of one of them. So I would say that this is a safe drop. It's a good way to get, you know, quick, easy guns and then third party. I would recommend this one if you want to third party people and just kind of push the, you know, push the pace without getting your loadout. This is kind of where you want to land. I wouldn't recommend landing here if I was a squad looking for a quick and easy loadout, unless there was a contract, of course, as we said earlier in this video. So overall, we're throwing this one, the harbor drop, in the safe drop. Not my favorite safe drop, but still not a bad one if you're looking to get into some quick action with a guaranteed gun, because there's sometimes nothing worse when you are in the Rebirth blender and you are landing with a pistol and immediately dying at some of these other drops. So if you want to try and find yourself a quick loadout crate or a quick crate to obviously get your guns and then go, Harbor's the one for you for safety and obviously just comfortability. So this is more of a beginner's drop, I would say too. Not a bad drop for your beginner player to make sure that you can obviously get your gun and kind of fight a little bit more in the comfort zone of just having a gun and not a pistol and doing all those crazy slide cancels and moves. But yeah, let's move on to the next drop now. And if I can count properly, I'm pretty sure we have now done 9 out of the 11. So there's only 2 more drops to talk about. If I have not missed any of them, I hope I did not. And this one coming up is going to be your headquarters drop. This is my least favorite cracked drop that there is. I would even kind of I want to put this one in mid. I don't like it so much, but it is a cracked drop for sure. Again, bio is not as cracked as it was when we were talking about that one earlier. The headquarters drop, I just think there isn't a lot of money here. There is a lot of people here, but I just don't like fighting in the grandma's house or anything of the sort. I just feel like there's a lot of different hop-ups that you can do like outside. That could be fun if you're doing them yourself, but overall, some of the guns are kind of tough to find. There's not a lot of boxes to find immediately. Of course, you can kind of go to the other building and land on the roof. Like, I would recommend trying to land on roof there too, but usually it's going to be pretty contested. So if you and your squad are trying to get mixy and just get kills as fast as possible, and honestly probably not survive and definitely die a couple times with trying to stay alive and doing the whole thing where you're running around the house and just getting crazy with it, I would recommend trying this spot out. Another good way to practice your closer angles and stuff too. So there are some advantages of this one other than just, you know, a lot of opportunity to run into gunfights in action as much as you're just, you know, trying to practice your slides and all your movement. Like there, you can see there's a lot of tight angles where if you're kind of using your movement here, you're going to be able to get away with some of the cool stuff too. So definitely some advantages here, but overall, the only reason why you land headquarters is you're an absolute maniac and you're just trying to get into the mix and just kind of blender people or kind of end yourself into the blender too. Because also, if you look at the mini map too, the buy stations that are available, you'd have to go down to living quarters, which isn't terrible, or you're gonna have to use the headquarters buy station right here, which is the grandma's one, we call it, and that one can just get third partied from prison pretty easily. So you can see the gameplay that you're watching right now. I'm just running into a bunch of action. I still only have $500 while doing all this. I'm running for my life. I'm jumping through windows. We're sliding through. We're going through these door plays. So again, this is more of a practice place where if you're just trying to work on your skill or just absolutely run it down, headquarters is the one for you. Probably my least favorite crack drop, just because even after you get a bunch of kills, you usually end up with no money, but still a fun one. And honestly, you could really have no wrong doing with just any of these rebirth drops. That's the best part about this map. I've just had so much fun with it recently. I think I've actually had more fun with it now than I did back in the day, crazy enough. So yeah, headquarters, we're throwing it in cracked. A fun one if you want to get crazy with it and practice your movement and get to a bunch of fights. And let's move on to the last and final drop of the video. And last but not least, for Warzone Pub specifically, my favorite drop, and we're throwing it in cracked, is Control. When I'm trying to just get absolutely mixy, I've had the most luck with Control Center. This one has 3 different floors. It is just an absolute mix fest. There's a bunch of places to finesse. You can fly off to the boat towards dock. You can third-party dock. You can third-party living quarters if you want to, if you don't get third-party by the guys that land tents first. And just overall trying to always land at the top here and just showing you what it looks like. You can see, I think I saw 3 or 4 different people already. I got someone's mic just screaming in my ear, chewing on the mic. I don't even know what that guy's doing, and just overall kind of get to slaying. And a lot of the times, I feel like every time I play Rebirth, especially pubs, there's just always fights and action here, and just a way more chance of also getting a loadout and finding money and killing people with money. And there's also 2 buy stations that are all yours that aren't really going to get third-partied either. So just in general, I really like the Control Center, all the guns that you kind of find. And also too, if you don't also find your best weapons, a lot of the times you can kind of find yourself getting these kills, and as you kill these people, they'll have weapons for you too if you're third-partying properly. So there's a lot of loot here, a lot of crates, definitely a good chance of you also getting your loadout weapon crate on the top. And just in general, very, very fun drop. This is probably by far my favorite drop. At least I recommend this one for pub players just trying to have some fun, also work on their finesse. There's a lot of advantages to this one. I wouldn't recommend this one if you're a beginner, because that probably isn't going to be the safest drop. And also in ranked, it could be a little bit risky, but we'll talk about ranked stuff if you guys want to see some ranked play gameplay on how to gain SR and get out of your hard stuck platinum, your golds, and your diamonds. Maybe I'll make some videos for you that on too. But overall, Control, throwing it in cracked, and that is your completed tier list right there on your screen. I hope this video just helped you kind of see how you can drop at every single place just a little bit differently. Again, I really, really do love all of the Rebirth spots, so you can't really go wrong with any of them, no matter what the tier list is. And I would love to hear you guys in the comments below what you guys thought of the tier list, if you agree with my tier list or you think there are better spots or different ways to kind of categorize them. But yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, again, like the video, drop a comment below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out and enjoy your Rebirth Island gameplay, guys.